the one thing I do really love to travel for is Turkey, and that puts me in different places all over the country. And what I've really come to love around spring turkey hunting too is this concept of traveling through the lens of Turkey, in that you can go to 49 different states and hunt turkeys, and you can also, along the way of hunting them, experience things that aren't just turkey hunting. The most obvious would be like the enjoyment of the region. Like in New Mexico, you're in these beautiful mountains and ponderosa pines. In Wisconsin, where we hunted in the driftless area, so it's these rolling hills with beautiful barns and just these verdant forests. Um, but last year, what really took me in was a trip to Nebraska, of all places.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got another great episode for you today. Today, we're actually connecting with someone who's been on the podcast before, a returning guest. We don't do those very often, but it's someone that I'm a big fan of, so I couldn't wait to get him back on. Today, we're hearing from Jesse Griffiths. If you aren't familiar, he's a chef out of Austin. He's a natural storyteller, author of several books: A Field, The Hog Book, The Turkey Book. Just a great guy who has a natural talent for telling wonderful stories. And he doesn't disappoint. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I did recording and having the conversation with Jesse. For you guys, please check out the show notes. I put a bunch of links in there on Jesse and what he's up to. And please do. There's also a discount code for his new project, the Pedernal Project. I hope I pronounced that correctly. 25% off, and you can get a lot of great information, especially if you live regionally in kind of the Texas or the South in general. So that's it, guys. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off. I don't want to ramble anymore, but thank you guys for tuning in. Now let's go ahead and let Jesse tell you some of his stories. All right, Jesse, welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. I think it was over a year and a half ago that we've had you on. I think it was episode 89 for the folks that are interested, right after you released the Turkey Book.
Mhm.
And so you've had a lot of success with that book. I think you were nominated for some awards. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we got nominated again for the James Beard Award. Did not win it, but we got the nomination, which is,
That's still impressive. And
it's
any beard award related with turkeys just fits. So I love that.
yeah.
But let's do this, Jesse. Everyone, I encourage everyone to check out episode 89. Tell a bunch of great stories. But why don't you introduce yourself for the folks that are just going to listen to this one first, so they know who we're hearing some stories from today. And yeah, I'll let you take the stage.
Yeah, my name is Jesse Griffiths. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm the chef and co-owner of a restaurant down here called Daidue. We specialize in local sourced foods cooked over wood fires, real heavy on game. The author of 3 books, including the aforementioned Turkey Book, the Hog Book, and a book I put out quite a while ago called A Field, which is kind of a general hunting and fishing cookbook. I have a online video subscription project called the Pedernal Project, which is in-depth educational videos and recipes on fish and game and all wild food, and probably soon to be maybe even gardening topics, all kinds of topics, just like food, anything that's like, good to eat. Um, I think that's it. I also teach a lot of classes on mostly feral hog butchery, but
Mm-hmm.
also venison, other game topics, fish, seafood, things like that. So a lot of education as well as restaurant and writing. So all over
Yeah.
the place.
All over the place. Yeah. And I mentioned this in the last time we connected, but your book, A Field, got me through COVID. I cooked almost every recipe in there. And I can't recommend it enough. Same with the Hog Book and the Turkey Book. They're all great books. And then if you're in the Austin area, of course, your restaurant is one of my personal favorites. So I appreciate you coming on, Jesse. Again, I've said it last time, but I'm a big fan. I've always been a big fan, and your food is delicious. Your donuts at Daidue are just out of this world.
We'll attribute that to a couple of things: a very talented pastry chef, and also beef fat that's in the
Yeah.
fry. So beef fat tends to make everything better.
Yeah.
Whether it's a donut or a empanada or a flauta or fried fish in particular.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, yeah. So I saw that you have the new project. Is it the Pedernals project? Is that right?
Pedernal, yeah, but
Okay.
locally known as Pedernal. That's a funny thing. To name it that, because here in Central Texas, I mean, I think people reading it for the first time are going to pronounce it Pedernal because that's how it's spelled. But here it's pronounced universally Pedernal, which I think is really funny. But it means Pedernal is Spanish word for flint, and so that as being a very the basic tool making component. And so
Okay.
I wanted to provide something that was like a very basic source of educational material as far as fish and game, crabbing, whatever it is. Just like going on these deep dives and just trying to teach people efficient skills. And so pedernal was the word I chose, and also it's a river that runs very close to here, so it's a really important river. Also, it's just a cool word, in the
Yeah.
Spanish. All these like Spanish words just peppered all over Texas. They're just really just beautiful little town names and river names here and there. So chose that.
Absolutely. And so it's like an online school, kind of like an online learning forum. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I saw that you did it, and I was like, I'm gonna dive into this, but I'm also gonna use it as an excuse to reach back out to Jesse, get it back on the podcast. So I want to know more about it, so I myself can sign up, maybe some of my listeners can sign up, and then we'll get to the stories, because that's why everyone's here.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just we're in a really dynamic time right now as far as information. There's a lot of free information out there. There's a lot of AI out there. Just gobbling up recipes and information like that. So there's also a good deal of I'm not necessarily the victim of online censorship, but I'm just saying, if you want to show how to skin, gut, and butcher a hog in a long form format, there's not really a place to do that. YouTube is definitely not it. You're battling
Yeah.
algorithms, you're battling censorship on like when the guts come out, things like that. So we chose a subscription service to do this because I felt like it's the most honest, best way to get it out there, unfiltered, And so we're installing chapters, and right now we have 4 chapters up on the site, and it's dove, a huge thing down here in Texas, dove hunting.
Absolutely.
Or we show you how to like the best placement in a field, what to look for, aerial maps, like just all the things that guide doves in their flight paths and
Oh,
pattern,
cool.
all the way through hunting, how to pluck doves and how to clean their little gizzards and what to do. And then and we try to do obviously like new recipes with that, not just poppers. Nothing against a popper, love them, but there's a million recipes out there for them.
Yeah.
Everybody knows how to do it, but I'm like, you want to break a dove down into 6 different parts and make yakitori out of it and like really celebrate that animal. We're gonna show you how to do that, along with a lot of other things that are more designed towards like efficiencies. I'm really into that, like how to get the most out of something, but also saving time, because I always feel like that's the rub for most people. It's like, oh, that takes so much time, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about time and how we digest that and what we think of that. But I try to make these things efficient, or like it's a skill that you learn once and then you can apply it to a bunch of different uses, like a recipe. Once you learn how to roll an enchilada, then you can make, all the enchilada sauces in the world. And also it
Yeah.
opens up that entire gateway. So we've done dove so far. We did blue crab, which I
Okay.
I wanted to do because I feel like people go to the coast and fish a lot. And I'm like, all right, why don't you drop in a couple crab pots? It's like, you don't have to do anything. You put them in the water and you come back later. Sometimes they're full of crabs.
Yep.
That's just cool. And what I run into a lot is people are like, yeah, I just don't know how to do it. And I'm like, man, if you know from the top of the bottom of the crab trap, you're good. Like, that's all you got to know. There's a few legalities, just keeping those things street legal. But beyond that, it's the easiest thing in the world. And then like, well, I don't know what to do with crab once I get it. I'm like, this is an excellent opportunity to create a topic like that, where it's going to get people some empowerment into enjoying just another aspect of the outdoors. They're going to go
Yeah.
down there and try to catch some trout or some redfish, and you might as well drop a couple crab traps and catch some blue crabs. And then we provide a bunch of recipes, all these different things you can do with those. Then we did feral hog, but the first of what we anticipate to be four chapters of feral hog, to kind of like to align with the chapters in the hog book. Small hog, medium
Okay.
hog, large sow, and a large boar. And we didn't choose to do a large sow, but that's what we did because that's what we got. And so we got a really big, beautiful, fatty sow and kind of walk through the butchery of that. So a very long butchery sequence. I mean, essentially probably 45 minutes of just pure large sow butchery, which, we're hopefully going to add a couple more chapters to that real soon. I'm actually going pig hunting tonight. So
Oh, fun.
I might get the material and assets for the next chapter tonight, hopefully. Um, and then we did turkey. So we filmed a spring turkey hunt and then did all the breakdown on turkey, how to, utilize the breasts, how to clean the tenderloins, how to clean a gizzard and the hearts and livers, and then some new recipes for all that. And then on the website, along with those 4 chapters, are a bunch of ancillary recipes that as I work through these animals that I've taken, because this is all very organic, it's like, this is my turkey, and then I'll start cooking it, and then we'll document that, and those recipes will go up as well. So very straightforward. There's some essays on there about, anytime I do a new chapter, I'll try to include just some writing about that topic. For
Okay.
turkeys, like turkey thighs. Turkey thighs are interesting because they're a constituent part of the bird, but they're unique in a lot of ways. And so let's just, just kind of do a little deep dive into what it is to cook a turkey thigh specifically. For hogs, we kind of explored a new way of cooking ribs, kind of a hot and fast, like grilling them over direct heat, but not intense heat, where it takes like an hour and a half to cook them. So just like
Okay.
just trying stuff out,
I love
doves.
it.
Yeah, doves, it was how to, positioning in the field. We have maps with all these lines drawn on them, just like to analyze where it is you'd stand in a field to hopefully get in front of the most amount of doves. So
That's brilliant. Are you going to do some of for the other species, kind of a little bit of like how to hunt as well? I mean, doves, obviously, and that piqued my interest because I've been dove hunting a handful of times. Just took myself out, brought a bucket, put the bucket down and sat and was like, I don't know, this seems fine. Right. But are you
right.
going to do that with the other species where you're going to give them a little bit of like, here's how to increase the odds, I guess, of actually harvesting one of these animals and then taking it from there? Or is it just the dove specific?
No, I think that's a really good question, and that's where I get really honest. It's like I feel like I'm very good at positioning myself in a field for doves, but I'm not the person that's really gonna, put a video out there about how to become a better turkey hunter. First off, there exists thousands of hours of really great video from,
Yeah.
the Hunting Public, Pinhoti Project. There's all kinds of guys out there doing killer videos on hunting turkeys or hunting deer for that matter. It really depends on the content. I'm trying to fill in gaps here, just things
Gotcha.
that are like kind of easy. Crabbing, like I said, that's like there's more tutorials on the front end of the crabbing video than there are in turkey. It's like turkey comes out, I'm being quiet, boom, kill the turkey, and then the rest of the kick in. There's a little bit up on the front end, but there's the access to all that turkey hunting knowledge really exists out there. And I'm trying to like keep it very efficient as far as what
Okay.
we're teaching as well. So it's
Yeah.
going to depend on the topic. There might be some animals where we start with the thing dead on the ground and just go from there because, in my assessment, there exists a lot around that. And really what I have to offer the most of is, how to butcher an aoudad,
Yeah.
so, that's probably that's what's coming next is those type of,
Awesome. Okay. Next question. Are you keeping it somewhat regional? Obviously, you have your roots in Texas. Are you going to go as broad as maybe elk and more mule deer or something in the western states? Or are you going to keep it somewhat regional to Texas?
I'm going to keep it regional. Again,
Okay.
it's just something that I've realized is just like to be honest, and there's a lot of power also in what you don't know and in
Yeah.
saying I don't know. Now I can butcher an elk and I've butchered many elk and I can cook them. It's not necessarily my wheelhouse, but communicating that is very similar to deer.
Yeah.
But I will be very regional about it, and I think and I'm proud of that too. It's like I
Yeah.
don't need to be a national voice in everything that exists. It's taken me a lifetime just to learn all these critters that live around me, and I'm
Yeah.
still, and it's just like, and so I think again, it's like, it's that I think people value it, or I hope they do, honesty in what I know. and what I want to share. And I'm able to most focus on the things that are near my home.
Yeah.
And for that reason, and those animals live a lot of places, so like,
Yeah.
deer and it's not to say that the recipes for blue crab would not apply to a Dungeness. They absolutely do. Like, absolutely. You can do that. Um, and so there's a lot of crossover with that. I had somebody ask me the other day, what about upland? It's like, well, a lot of these dove recipes, yes, just use that on a
Yeah.
chucker, adjust for size, and I think that we'll also start to include more writing and communication about how to apply concepts of other game animals and other regions to these. Well, a chucker's 3 times as big as a dove, or maybe 4 or 5 actually. But how does that affect it? And it's like, oh, we can talk about that, and
Okay.
then it's really about inspiring confidence in the user,
Okay.
and to become confident in cooking game, you have to have an innate flexibility and develop these foundational understandings of how these things work. And the best way is not to just be handed it over. This is a recipe that only applies to chucker. That's just ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like, 'cause, I mean, you could probably cook a turkey drumstick that's, the same way you're cooking a chucker leg quarter, but it's just going to take 6 hours instead of 45 minutes,
Yeah.
so, but the same recipe could apply other than the
Awesome.
time.
I love it. I love it. I think that wild game is a harder ingredient than say beef or chicken,
Absolutely.
and that's something that I've struggled with is getting people around me to like be willing to try these things. So I always get really fancy for me when I'm cooking. So I love that you're going through this whole process. So I think it's something that's needed, especially for newer hunters, people that maybe weren't brought up eating these things and have a book of family recipes. I think it's an awesome idea, Jesse, and like honestly, the mapping out where to sit in a dove field, I think you just got me out dove hunting next year because like that's it. I was like, I've killed 2 dove in like 3 trips, and I'm like, I don't want to just go sit in a bucket in the field. Like I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know anyone that does it. So now I can log in, figure out where I'm supposed to be sitting, and hopefully have a little bit more success. Now I just got to
Yeah.
worry about me being a bad shot, which is my own problem. You can't help me there.
Well, I'm the last person to help you there because I'm really good at setting up in the field. It's just the hitting of the doves where I struggle too. But
Yeah.
shooting is fun, so it's you still have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Okay, well, I think let me ask you a question. In a field, did you have a deer tartare recipe?
Hmm.
Yes,
Yes.
I did that this last year since we've last talked with Axis deer tenderloin tartare. Holy moly! I did not expect it to be as good as it was. One of the best things I've ever eaten. So. Took us a little off track there, but I just wanted to mention it before we dive into stories. If you guys haven't had tartare, check it out. It's awesome. Raw deer backstrap is just out of this world. I
Yeah.
had no idea. And I had like 10 people eating it, and we ate every bit. We ran out of crackers. It was phenomenal. So thank you for that recipe. But now, Jesse, we're here for a reason. Let's hear some stories. I know you said, I think you have some turkey ones. If you can think of any, I'd love to hear a hog story or maybe even a deer story as well. If you can pop one in your head. If not, you just tell
Sure.
us what you got, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I mean, and it kind of it might be a good segue because of what you were just saying about the regionality too, and in that I stick very close to home typically. I've got a 50-minute drive ahead of me this evening to go after some hogs, and then in a couple weeks we're going to take a 3-hour drive down to the coast, trying to get some redfish and trout and so forth. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I do really love to travel for is turkey, and that puts me in different places all over the country. And what I've really come to love around spring turkey hunting too is this concept of traveling through the lens of turkey, in that you can go to 49 different states and hunt turkeys, and you can also, along the way of hunting them, experience things that aren't just turkey hunting. The most obvious would be like the enjoyment of the region. Like
Yeah.
in New Mexico, you're in these beautiful mountains and ponderosa pines. In Wisconsin, where we hunted in the driftless area, so it's these rolling hills with beautiful barns and just these verdant forests. Um, but last year, what really took me in was a trip to Nebraska,
Oh,
of all places. And I've never been to Nebraska before. And I have to admit, I was probably a little bit prejudiced about what Nebraska was going to look like or be like.
I can understand that as a Colorado resident.
Yeah.
Boo, Nebraska.
I don't know if that might be the right word, or at least dismissive, or I hadn't
Yeah.
even thought about it. I was too focused on the hunt to really even consider what existed beyond that.
Yeah.
And so it's my birthday falls in turkey season, and so the past couple of years I've used that as an excuse to go on an extended hunt with my daughter. She's now 14,
Okay.
and so I thought it'd be really fun to take her to Nebraska and hunt um, with a woman guide. I thought it would just be a great example to set for her and say, like, look,
Yeah.
this is a woman who runs an outfitting service in Nebraska. It's Jordan Budd. She works with Meat Eater a lot, and just a truly amazing human. Just a very, very good hunter. And set this trip up, and we flew into Rapid City. And then, that drive from point A to point B is always the most telling. You're excited, you're getting, settled into the region. And it was just kind of fascinating to make that drive. And, you go through these rolling hills, are very sparse, just the presence of a tree is notable. Like, oh, there's one. Uh, a lot of cattle. And then it just started to shift a little bit, and just there's these like subtle changes, and then you realize, oh, it's getting a little beautiful over here. Like, this is really impressive. We drove through the Lakota reservation, and for a a, a kid, it's very important and teachable moment right there, where you can be like, check this out. This is, I mean, there's to say this is a historical place is quite an understatement. This is a really special place, and it's got a lot of history, a lot of fraught history. And so we talked a lot about the history of what my knowledge was. We listened to a couple podcasts about Wounded Knee, and so just try to get a really good historical perspective on it. And then we finally arrive at our destination, and the last stretch to get to Jordan's place is very desolate. There again, you're just going through these rolling prairies, and you kind of
Yeah.
understand why people went insane out there. When they were just nothing. You just
Yeah.
they just you you could go and go and go and never see a tree, and then we just drop into this valley where she lives. I mean, by valley, it's very small. A few, maybe 1,000 yards across. And contained within that valley is pretty much everything, all the cottonwoods and pines, and it's all the grass and the water. And it's a beautiful river flowing through there. And so it's a very concentrated area. And as a turkey hunter, I knew immediately, I was like, well, the turkeys are going to be in this valley.
Yeah.
They're very narrow strip, and you're almost at any point going to either be within sight or sound of a turkey. I mean, like, it's that narrow, and it's just long. And I believe she has 7-8 mile river miles and
Wow.
able to access. And so we get down in there, and it's just very impressive. I'm like, this is so cool, like these rolling, just grain filled prairies on either side, and then you get down to this very lush area in the valley, and we started hunting, and it's late season, so that wake up time is very early, 3 o'clock, 3:30, and for a teen, that's um, but also she's had up to this point, she's had probably the most illustrious turkey hunting career ever,
Oh,
like
really?
2 mornings, both times, me and her go out. Maybe I've curated these trips too heavily, but we shoot doubles both times, both mornings that we get up, like one in Texas and one in Washington State, and we shoot doubles on
Wow.
both morning. And I'm just like, you got to know this is not what turkey hunting is. But, like, it was a very difficult. This is a really hard turkey season for me, or like I don't want to say hard, but it was a long one. I probably put in 29 days, I think, and I killed 4 birds.
Wow. Okay.
I was spending about a week per turkey, which, I don't know if that's good stats or bad stats. I had a great time doing it, but it was a struggle.
Yeah.
And so we went there, and to put that in a counter to her career, she's doing real good. She's batting 2-2. It's just like, well, okay, we're gonna get up in the morning and shoot a couple turkeys, big deal. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably not gonna be like that, and it wasn't. We get up the next morning, and I'll kind of skip a lot of these details, but it was a very common thing. We have a bird roosted, we make that move, me and her and Jordan, we're making these maneuvers and getting tight, and then the birds, they come down, and then they go the other way. And the entire day is, long story short, just chasing these things, and then these adrenaline surges. Oh, he's coming. Oh, he's not coming. Oh, he's coming. He's not coming. Lots of up and down these hills, just wearing my daughter out. She's long,
Yeah.
long day. And then, like in the afternoons, we're trying to just ambush them here or there, just trying everything. And it was really hard. It was a hard couple of days. And then one morning, she's decides, I'm like, hey, I give her the option to let her sleep in. And I go out, and Jordan and I have a bird roosted, and we misjudged where it was, or it had moved, which actually that was more likely. It had just scooted a little bit further down the river.
Okay.
And so we get in position on this bird, and it's not there. And we realize that pretty quick, but it's starting to get light. And then we can hear some other gobblers, a couple more downriver from us. And so we start to head that way and through a very open cottonwood grove. And we're walking through there. It's getting light. It's light enough where turkey could definitely see you. And she just freezes, and she's just like, oh no. And she's like, points up, and we look up, and there's birds in a tree, probably 60 yards out. We're The closest tree to us is a big dead cottonwood. Half of it's missing. It's like scooped out. And we just kind of creep back and get behind it. And then at that point, we are 100% stuck.
Yeah.
Like we're just behind this tree until something happens, right?
Yeah.
No, like we're there, not even able to sit. So I'm standing. The tree is curved around me, luckily, and so it's kind of like there's a little cozy spot in there. She's just on the right next to me on the other side of the tree, kind of peeking out, and I'm peeking out this way, and we're like, we're busted. We're busted. We just stick the decoy like an arm's length away from us and sit there, and just basically at that point you just got to wait your mistake out, just like see what the birds do. How bad is it,
Yeah.
on the
Play the
scale of
cards you're dealt, right? It's it's hunting.
terrible, because it's like there's kind of like no way that this bird or birds haven't seen us. And turns out there's multiple. There was three turkeys, two hens, and a gobbler. And then they fly down, and just totally stuck in this spot, and they actually start working their way towards us. And meaning that I either they were faced away in the tree, or what, that we'll never know what the
Yeah.
circumstances were. um, and then finally, this one turkey, this hen, just starts to hook hard right, and the further she gets right, the more visible I'm becoming. She's kind of just coming around the tree, and then I look down, probably like 50, 60, 70 yards. This gobbler's just in full strut, and he's kind of following her. And there comes a time where I've got range on him, is just creeping towards, from not like inappropriate to doable.
Yeah.
And in that same time frame, this the hen is cruising to my right and is rapidly about to see me. The clock is just tick, tick, just
Yeah.
like either you're gonna take the shot, or she's gonna see you. And it's like he's not gonna be at 30 yards, and but she's gonna be at 10 yards right next to you. And so I just went for it. I killed the turkey. It was my first Merriam's, beautiful big bird. And it was just, I wish that my daughter had been there for it. But we go back, and it's kind of a little bit celebratory. I got my bird for the trip, and so it's time to focus on her. And so we spend the next couple days just doing this chase, and it was really wearing her out. And I think it's so important with kids this age. You have to be very careful. I've been very fastidious about how we hunt together, and providing a good time. There was the treats involved. Hey,
Of course.
you want a cookie? You look like you need a cookie. I mean, you find yourself just doing it, just to encourage, enough to keep them interested. And she's hitting this age where if she was to become disinterested in it, that's it. We're here.
Yeah.
And, 2 more days of just hard hunts, and like I said, you're up at 3:30, and then to bed late, roosting birds, and just a lot of physical activity and wearing her out, and getting close to birds and having the disappointment, and then just like, oh, this is it, just get behind the tree, he's coming, he's not coming, over and over and over, and it was just like it was a real dose of turkey hunting.
Yeah.
And we had one final day. We were leaving. Well, we were leaving we had one day to hunt, and then the next morning we were going back, and we had a morning flight back out of Rapid City. And so we had that last day to get it done, and we got up early and just did the whole thing. I didn't quite remember the details of it, but it was just more of the same, more disappointment. And then that afternoon, just to add insult to injury, this huge windstorm, rainstorm blowing in. And it was looking pretty rough. Like that wind was gonna kick up, gusting into the like 50. It's just like, yeah, just we're done. Like
Yeah.
we have a very tight window on this. And we went out in the morning and had a couple of those close encounters. We see birds or hear a bird. Didn't happen. And we come back, and I think I can get about an hour more out of her. We come back to eat breakfast, and we go to the cabin we're staying in the little valley there, and we're eating breakfast, and Jordan's dad comes over. I mean, it's just a total family affair. I love it. They're
Yeah.
great, really awesome people. And he comes over, and we eat some ham and I think a waffle, and my daughter's just kind of I'm trying to get her to like let's just go out for another hour after breakfast, and then we'll call it. We're done. And I look in the room, she's got her boots off and everything, and Jordan's dad leaves, and then he comes right back, comes in the door, and he's like, bunch of turkeys over there. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, there's this bunch of big turkeys right over there, between here and the barn. And I'm like, we've been chasing them up and down this river for 4 days. Are you kidding? They're just right over there. And so I was like, hey, get your boots on. She throws her boots on. She's excited. And we hop in the truck to kind of drive down to maybe, just get into a position where we can get in front of these birds. We drive maybe 100 yards and look over, and they're right there. And we drive right by them, but they're kind of in the valley around the farm with their whole cattle operation. I guess how animals are, they get acclimated
Yeah.
to seeing trucks and things like that. So these birds were just like, it's a truck, whereas 3 miles up they would have scattered. We turn the truck around and just go back and just the cabin that we're staying in. And these birds, there's a real just steep hill on one side of this. We're on one side of the valley, and they're obviously just working their way right down the seam of that hill and just feeding. And I'm like, we're just gonna get in front of them. So we go and position ourselves right up on about halfway up the hill, just in case they cut to the top or anywhere. If they come in anywhere, we're gonna be in front of them. And we just sat there, and Jordan and her dad went and just got back in the cabin and looked through the window of the door. Just it was the craziest thing. And so we were sitting there, and all of a sudden just the two lead turkeys, these massive toms, just kind of come into view, and they start feeding, and you start to develop that feeling. You're like, this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think that this might actually happen. And I'm like, oh, they could cut, and the devastation of them cutting away from us and like getting down towards the river would just be like, I would have been crushed. Sure enough, they come towards us, and she's in a great position, and she's got a log in front of her, good rest and everything. And I didn't even bring a call or anything. And so they kind of get into this open area, and I'm just like, at this point, it's just almost overwhelming because we put so much into it. And I've put so much into it. I'm wrapped up in her entire hunting career at this point and whether she's going to stick with it.
Yeah.
And the lead bird, who's just a pterodactyl of a turkey, just walks into this kind of open spot. And I mouth called, not with a diaphragm call. I just went, tuck, 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 like that. And my daughter just smokes this bird. And I was like, what just happened? And I walk down there, and I grab the turkey, and we're looking at it, and this is beautiful, huge Merriam's. and I walk literally 50 yards over and drop them on the stainless table that they have outside the cabin. Counts. This totally counts. We put in the time,
Yeah.
we did everything right. Just because it was right next to the cabin doesn't make it not count. But really, the essence of the story is what happens now for me, in that we're both just like on top of the world at this
I
point.
bet.
I can't believe it. We're supposed to stay one more night in the camp and then head back to Rapid City. It's like 2 hours. Um, and there's the windstorm is still blowing in. It's still coming. As I'm cleaning this turkey, it's blowing wind and it's starting to like drizzle a little bit. And it's about to turn pretty nasty. And we had been talking a lot with Jordan and her family about what the area had, and there's still all these things like, oh, you got to go see this and that. I'm like, I didn't even realize that, we're where we are. What a special historic place. It's like the so much of American history is wrapped up in that area right there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Let's hit the road. Let's go. Let's just go. And so we, throw the turkey in the freezer, just drop the temp on it, throw it in a cooler, both birds, and hug everybody goodbye, and we roll out, and right as we're rolling out, this storm hits, just blowing rain, and we're driving through the prairie, kind of sliding around everywhere in the mud, and
Yeah.
just take this kind of meandering course back up, from Nebraska into South Dakota, and we're gonna go just see some stuff. And so we get up on the highway, and the weather eventually passes, and then we drive through the Badlands, which is just so
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
just incredible. It's hard to describe. You can't describe it until you've like laid eyes on it, and you're like, this looks like somebody painted this. It's otherworldly. And to see that, and then almost immediately it transitions up into these forests, and all of a sudden there's just a sprinkling of pines, and then before you know it, it looks like Switzerland. You're in the mountains, and it's the Black Hills,
Yep.
and we're like cruising along. We're still high on these two turkeys. We got them. I get pulled over for speeding, and the guy lets me off. About you, but that's a great feeling. Like, yeah, we're turkey hunting, sir. And he's just like, oh, all right, just get out of here. Watch your speed. Yes, sir. Like, what's that?
Yeah.
And then we go, and we are just driving and driving. We go see Mount Rushmore. And then we go see the Crazy Horse statue
Yeah.
monument. And I mean, to think, and all this happened in one day. I mean, like just a mere hours ago, it was like waffles and ham and total dejection. And the best thing about it was the waffles and the ham. We're just like, oh, this is rough. From that to this journey, and it's just like me and her. She's not on her screen. We're just talking. We drive
Yeah.
back to the Lakota reservation. We drive through the Black Hills. We see these iconic things. These things don't exist anywhere else in the world. We don't even have a place to stay that night, which for me is just like a very specific form of adventure. Like just
Yeah.
like that. Oh, we're really winging it. We don't even know where we're gonna sleep tonight. We find this little motor court in Custer. I mean, just even the name of the town, is just evocative. It's like it's Custer. It's named after George Armstrong Custer of the
Yep.
Seventh Cavalry. And then we can't find anywhere to eat, but just one place. It's a saloon. We go in there and have bison burgers. It's just like
Yeah.
this was just amazing. And then, this cool little hotel, very comfortable, and we're nice and tired that night. And it was really for me, it was like that that whole trip, was just so much like hardship, travel, disappointment. Just it was difficulties, and then it became this whole new thing. It was
It's
just
amazing.
travel, time with your kid that you'll never forget, success, and in its own form of adventure. And it was great. And we just, the next morning, we got up and just had this really leisurely drive through more Black Hills to
Yeah.
the airport. And then back to Texas. And that was just like, it was about the coolest thing.
I love it. I love it. And correct me if I'm wrong, and you may know better than me, but that whole area of the country is kind of where Teddy Roosevelt got the idea for national parks, just driving through that exact area. So it is a very special part of the country, and that's an amazing story with your daughter. Do you think she is, if you were to guess, do you think she's going to continue hunting, especially after that special moment, or is she, just hitting the age where she's going to take a break, or where do you think she stands after all of that?
Well, I think, I know the answer. I mean, she's given me the answer, and the answer is yes. She's in.
That's amazing.
And I think it's a lot of it is because of the trips are like that. And I think the takeaway being it's not just about going out and getting an animal. That's key, though. Or at least this qualified pursuit. But it's the ancillary things that are happening around it that are really, really important. This fun travel. And I'll make one more quick point to that point, and that the previous year we'd gone to Washington State and Spokane particularly, and there was a terrible mix up with where we were. We'd rented a little cabin kind of close to where we were hunting, and it fell through it was crazy, and we ended up staying in this little basement. It was a Moroccan themed Airbnb basement. There was one room and a bathroom. And we stayed there, and we had no way to cook, although we had already purchased all these groceries. Whatever. We had one hot plate, and that was the only way we could cook. So for dinner one night, I had just bought a couple little steaks, and I'd bought avocados. I bought a bunch of other stuff, but we had no way to cook it,
Okay.
Thing there, except for one pan and a hot plate. And so we ended up having steaks and avocados and salt. That was it. Water, it was like, but it was fun, it was great. And we went, it was about a year later, and we were going to go locally. We're going to go deer hunting here near Austin. It's just a quick overnight. We're going to go hunt them the evening and then hunt them next morning. And I was like, oh, what do you want to eat? I'm thinking, you're going to want hot dogs, you want maybe some tacos or something like that. And she said, I want to eat steak and avocado. And I was like, okay. I was like, oh my God, I was blown away.
Yeah. New family tradition right there. I love it.
It didn't register with me, but it registered.
Yeah.
So, a few weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago, I asked her, we were driving, and I was like, hey, are you in this year? Do you want to go deer hunting? Do you want to go, try to get a couple pigs in the freezer? And then, this spring, probably go turkey hunting again. And she was like, yeah, I do. And she's like super into hanging out with her friends right now. Like weekends are for friends.
Yeah.
So for her to peel off one of those or two of those or three of those to go spend with me and to still hunt, I mean, she's honestly in it because she's not going to say that if she didn't want to. So it was very important. It was very,
that's
very
awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. My kids are not quite old enough to be there yet, but I'm still trying to take them out. I went elk hunting for the past 10 days I've been out. But before that, I went and dropped my camper off in the woods to make sure we got a good spot preseason. And I took my son with me and just driving the dirt roads. Like my wife and I, it's not a good habit, but when we hit dirt roads with the camper where you're going 5 miles an hour, we'll sometimes crack a beer for the last, mile or two down that dirt road. And so my son, I made sure to fill the cooler with 2 or 3 beers for me, but a couple little drinks for him. And so as soon as we hit that dirt road and he's 6, I was like, get out of your car seat, come up here to the front. And we're just sitting there actually listening to Metallica, just driving down the dirt road and just making those moments. And I've never seen him laugh so hard when he saw me headbanging. And it's about the whole experience, not just the kill. So it's cool that you're doing that and that your daughter appreciates it so much, even more so than I think that you recognize, which is really amazing.
Yeah. No, it's great. And it's, I'm looking forward to this spring, that big trip. And I was like, hey, do you want to go back to Washington? She's like, yeah. Really?
She's like, can we stay at that same Moroccan Airbnb?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't even know how we found it. It was wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I have a quick story for you. I'll try not to take up too much time, but your turkey story reminded me of a funny story of mine. My listeners have heard this story probably 10 times, so tough luck, guys. I want to tell Jesse. But I'm hunting in Texas. To set the tone for this entire story, my buddy that I had met on Facebook, he's like, I've never hunted, looking for a mentor, and I hit him up and was like, hey, I'm not a mentor, but I'll go with you. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's figure it out together. And he's like, hey, I work on this river. People hunt it. People hunt it for deer. No one hunts it for turkeys. There's turkeys everywhere. Why don't you come and we'll set up some little decoy spread and we'll figure it out. I'm like, absolutely. Send me the pin. He sends me GPS coordinates. This is just how the day goes. I'm sitting there at the gate waiting for him to show up, and he calls me. He's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm at the pin you gave me. And he's like, well, I'm lost. And I'm like, this is your place of work. Like, what are you talking about? You're lost. Like, how are you not able to find it here? Either way, he eventually shows up. I'm like looking at the map while we're on the phone, and I direct him how to get there. He shows up. We get in there. We park. I've never heard more birds in my life. Just every direction. Birds are chirping, gobbling. Just, it's absolutely amazing. Couldn't be more excited. There's a feeder that kind of comes in. Imagine just a long rectangular property. You come down the side of the property, and then about halfway you cut over, and then that's where everyone parks on the opposite side. But halfway from that bend, there's a feeder. So we just go out there. I take one of those little blinds that's just basically 8 feet of fabric, about 2 feet tall, and pop it in front of you. We set up. He's got his shotgun. I have my bow. We sit there. We're like, all right, sun comes up. Birds shut up. Nothing. Don't see a thing. Like, it's just absolutely just infuriating because I've never heard more birds in my life. It was only a day hunt, so not quite a week like you had, but it was still pretty crazy to just have that experience followed by just complete quiet. Either way, we sit there for a few hours until the sun comes up. It's starting to get hot, and we're like, all right, let's actually walk the property. This is obviously not working. Calling's not working, so we walk the property. We ended up back at our truck to have like lunch, and we're sitting there, and another truck rolls in. And they're like, hey, guys, what are you doing? We're like, we're turkey hunting. Well, there's a bunch of turkeys back down the road. We're like, no, those aren't our turkeys. Those are our decoys. But thank you. And like, no, there's turkeys with your decoys. So we kind of jog around this big silo and look, and we're like, oh, my goodness, there's a giant tom right in the middle of our decoys. We've been sitting there all day, and he just was hanging out and messing around. I'm like, all right, here's the plan. And because they drove by and he didn't spook. And this is where your story reminded me of this, right? I'm like, I'm going to get in the truck bed. And you just drive. And when you get within like 20 yards, just stop and I'll just shoot him from the back of the truck. I was like, this will be perfect. Like it couldn't possibly be better. And he's like, all right, cool. And so my buddy gets in the car. We start driving down the road and we're right there. And I see the bird and I'm like, oh my goodness, this crazy, stupid plan is going to work. And so I'm just about ready to pull back. I'm like just waiting for him to stop. And he just keeps driving. And he drives right by the bird. And all of a sudden he drives like 20, 30, 40, 50 yards past and then around a berm and parks. And he's like, okay, what are we going to do? And I'm like, what do you mean, what are we going to do? We had a plan. You just drove right by it. So like at this point, the gentleman that had told us, he had a couple Mexican gentlemen with him, and they roll in their car right behind us. And the bird had slowly crossed the street and gone into the brush. They all jump out of the car and just all dive into the brush. So now there's like 5 guys chasing this turkey. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
With what?
No weapons, no calls. I don't know what they were thinking. We didn't really talk to them. In fact, I don't speak Spanish. They didn't speak English. So like they just ran into the woods after the bird. And so I'm looking at my buddy. I'm like, well, I guess we should go too. I don't know. So we step over this little barbed wire like divider, more than a fence. And just go in there. We see some whitetail. We hear the turkey gobbling. I'll tell you what, we never saw any of those guys again. They all disappeared. It was like they were a ghost. Like didn't see their car. Didn't
so
see 5.
weird.
Yeah, 5 guys just run into the woods chasing this turkey. I'm like, what are they gonna do? Wrestle it? Like I don't know. Either way, we walk in the brush. Texas brush is not always the easiest to walk through, but we eventually come back and I'm like, all right, well, let's sit down for another hour. Maybe another bird will come by and let's just call it. Like I have to go. My wife needs me back at home. So we sit back down and I'm like, all right, well, I'm about to take off and this is something we talked about the last time. I'm like, well, here's the Hail Mary. Let's throw one more call out there and see what happens. And I throw a call out there. Right from my truck. Like next to my truck, I hear a gobble. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And the biggest tom that I've ever killed to date comes out around that little silo that I was mentioning earlier, and he just walks that road. And so I'm like, okay, what do I do? Can't mouth call. So I hand my slate call to my buddy, and I'm like, here. I'm going to give this to you. If he stops, call. Otherwise, he should be coming right in. So I get my bow ready, and he comes on a line in this giant open field, probably 100, 150 yards, straight to the decoys. He puts his head behind the little, like, the leg of the feeder, and so I pull back, and my arrow falls off the nock. And I'm sitting here full draw with my arrow dangling, and my buddy's just locked in on the bird, not paying attention. And I'm like, psst, 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 like trying to get his attention. He eventually figures out what I'm doing. He crawls over underneath the little blind thing, grabs my arrow, and puts it back on the string. And I'm like, sweet. But he doesn't let go. He's now back on the bird, and he's just holding my arrow. And I'm like, let go of the damn arrow, man. And so eventually he realizes that, and he lets go, and I'm like, all right. So the bird's there, and I'm aiming for the body. I'll admit, terrible shot, but he like went in. I think when he heard the string, body went down, head went up, and it just right through the neck, and the bird was down. And I was like, oh my goodness, like after all of this craziness. But your story of like just driving right by the turkey just reminded me of it. Also listening to our episode earlier about that Hail Mary with turkeys, you got to call. When you're going to wrap it up, you got to make a call. Because I think at least 3 times I've killed a turkey just being like, all right, one last call before I end my day here. But yeah, ended up being a big old Rio, biggest turkey I've ever killed. He was delicious. And it's just a funny hunt that I always laugh about because it's just like folly after folly, and it worked out, you know?
Sounds to me like that is a classic and standard turkey hunt. But you just described like not exactly that thing, but like that type of chaos, mayhem, and the unknown coming true like that. That's just
man, when those 5 guys ran into the woods, I was just like, what is going on? It didn't make any sense to me.
A mystery to this day.
Yeah, still, yeah. They might still be roaming those woods looking for that turkey. That was years ago, but they might still be there. All right, Jesse. Well, we got a little bit more time. I don't know if you have another quick one or if you want to wrap it up right here. It's really up to you, sir.
Oh. Let me think. Well, I love the format of this too. Like all the stories. It's great because I would absolutely, I just listen to hunting stories all day long.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Recently, I've been doing a kind of like campfire session. So if you have a hunting group that you love to call bullshit on your friends' stories, let's get us all together. And those are a lot of fun when people can say, no, that's not how that happened. Hold on, let me tell you the truth of what Jesse did when he fell over or whatever. So if you want to do one of those, just let me know because I'd be happy to.
Oh, yeah. Man, let me think. It's also I'm so fixated with turkeys, and it's almost deer season. And I'm thinking like 6 months out. I need to be more focused on deer. I've never really, I mean, for me, deer is a bit more of a grocery store run. I'm a big doe hunter. I really like to hunt does the most, and just because I like to eat them. And it also just kind of this whole thing about just like leaving bucks for people that really really care about it. Because in Texas, there's so many deer that we actively hunt does, and we can shoot quite a few of them here. I think one of my probably my favorite doe hunt ever. It's not a very lengthy story, but it was we spotted a doe probably about 500 yards down this fence line, and she was feeding out in a field with another doe, and there was no way to get close to her besides get right up on the fence and use the fence as cover, as visual cover. There was a perpendicular fence with a big post on it, and then I basically had to put that one post between me and her because she was feeding so close to the fence. And I think I probably closed about 300 or 400 yards on her like that. I had to just like get as close to the fence as I could and just make sure that I constantly had that in our line of sight, and I was finally able to close to about 80 yards, which is pretty good on a deer, and that's in an open field. And I remember just sitting there, and I'm like, well, I have to, I'm behind the post, and I kind of peeked around it just enough to just see her, and she was at that point like,
yeah,
something going on over there. And I knew that I was like, I have like seconds, I'm gonna have to just do this thing. And I'm like formulating it in my head. I was like, I need just one motion. I have to get up, get the rifle on her, and hope that this is a good shot, and because she's gonna leave. And I did it. And I just got up, rifle on this post, looking right at her, and I'll never forget. She just turned and looked at me and just like stared right at me, and she just stomped like that. And I had to do it. It was like kind of a front on shot, but she was just this big, beautiful old doe, and there's just something about it. And I've always like wanted to, and to this day, I'm gonna get a shoulder mount on a doe, and it
Yeah.
has to be the right one. And I don't care what anybody says. Like I feel that, I mean, there's been so many times, particularly like late season here in Texas, and the deer hunting is inarguably different here.
Yeah.
A lot of feeders, and the situation, and there's a lot of deer, so the situation can be much different than somebody hunting in the West, where they might only see a couple, or in like the East Coast or something. They're like, whoa, you got a lot of deer here. It's cool. um but I've seen so many times, particularly late season, where the bucks are kind of dumb. They're kind of really still just doing their thing. They don't care that much, especially on unpressured properties. But you see a doe enter the field 300 yards away, and she comes out of the brush line and she scans left to right, and she's not having it. And she'll do something, and she can clear that whole field out. Like
Yeah.
everybody leaves. And to me, I mean, I think it's a compelling argument to say, like, what's the real trophy here? Like,
Okay.
it's her. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if you fool that deer, because she's not having it. She doesn't have like a hormonal handicap that the buck so much,
Yeah.
like thinking clearly. And to me, I just I'm a little obsessed with the idea of the trophy doe. I want her to be, one day I'm gonna this it's gonna happen. It's gonna be a 6.5-year-old doe that still has like good body, and is still like meat. Like I still
Yeah.
want like an adequate amount of meat, not just kind of past prime, getting a little decrepit. But I'm a little bit obsessed with that idea, and then I think that hunt right there, where I was able to kind of to execute it that one time, it's like and I want it to happen like that. I don't want to be in a blind. I don't want to be, I want it to be just
Yeah.
completely organic, spot and stalk a doe, and they typically run in groups too. So I mean,
Yeah.
you've got multiple eyes on you, and it's
I love it.
downright hard. So not as much of a story as a plan, you
No, I
know.
like it. I had a question for you that I was waiting until you were done asking, but you kind of finally filled in some of the details of my question. But like that perfect doe, the one that you are going to mount, is it because physically she is ideal specimen, or would it be more because of the story and how you went about kind of harvesting her, or is it a blend of the both? And it sounds like it's a blend of the both from kind of what you were going there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say just put all the qualities of a
Yeah.
trophy buck on a doe. That's it. Like, you want it to be like it's
Yeah.
a peak specimen, and
Yeah.
like a big buck, it's a 12 pointer, and he's like still muscular and Roman nose and all that. And it's likewise with the does. I think all those characteristics, not just the aesthetic, but the moment, the hunt, and the volume of venison that exists on this doe right now. Maybe this is my year. I sure hope so. Like
I hope
I'm
so
really,
too. I hope
yeah,
so too. Well, Jesse, man, this was a ton of fun. I want to say thank you again for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Whenever you have a new project or new book, man, I want to bring you back because it's fun to hear your stories. But let's do this. Why don't we wrap it up? You can tell the folks, if you want to mention websites or links or books or whatever, we'll do all that, and then I'll make sure to put everything into the show notes so that they can find it nice and
great.
easy. So go ahead
Well,
and send us out.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real good time. It's always fun to just kind of tell stories. Yeah, you can find me if I'm at the restaurant. It's called Due. It's in Austin, Texas, on the east side, um, kind of pretty close to downtown, pretty convenient. And then all the books are available through thewildbooks.com. We're self-distributed, self-published, and so we handle all of our own sales of books. And the Wild Books, you can get hats and shirts and slate calls and stuff like that, as well as the books. And then my new project is the Pedernal Project, Pedernal Project, pedernalproject.com. And it's a subscription, but you will get a lot of video and recipes with a lot more forthcoming. Hopefully tonight,
There we
we're gonna
go.
have a chapter in there. So yeah, I hope to. But yeah, it's got a lot on it, and like I said, more coming on there. And then I'm on Instagram, Sacalait, SAC.A.LAIT, where I kind of use that as my uh, method of communication for most stuff. And if anybody ever
Yeah.
wants to get hold of me, that's the most likely, albeit slowest way to do it. I'll eventually usually get around to responding. I love talking to people, so I
Yeah.
like feedback and ideas and stories and stuff like that. So,
Love
but
it.
again,
I got one final question before we wrap it up.
sure.
Sacalait, where's that? What does that come from?
That's a Cajun Creole word for a crappie,
Okay.
and it's French, and it literally means milk bag. For some reason, that's what they're like. They're like, look at that fish, and they're like, that's a milk bag right there. So, yeah, Steve Ranella hates it. He's always told me, he's like, you got to change your Instagram handle. I'm like, I can't at this point. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
like, I love crappie. That's my hands down favorite freshwater fish. I love them. Kind of obsessed with them in the spring. So I'm
Okay.
not changing anything. But yeah,
All right.
that's it.
All right. Sack of milk. All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. I appreciate you, man. It's always fun. For the listeners, please check out everything he's doing. And if you're in the Austin area, get to the restaurant. I cannot recommend it enough. Jesse, thank you again, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. Again, I want to thank Jesse for coming on the podcast. It's always fun to hear some great turkey stories. And his story today did not disappoint. That wonderful story about hunting with his daughter, going to see all the sights and just having that experience with her. It's really something special. For you guys, please do check out his books. If you don't already have one, get one. I recommend A Field, but they're all great. And check out the Pedernal Project. Make sure you subscribe. There is a discount code in the show notes. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please give us a follow, a like, share with a friend. If you have some stories, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to have you on. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Now get out there and make some stories of your own.